Hi, it's Alexis. So most of us know the idea of it's not you, it's me. But there are times where it's not you, it's them. And I don't mean people here. I mean the things that you've created in your life that are supporting you. And there's a little bit of sun on my face. Hold on. Let me see if I can move out of it. I'm torn between it's sunny, I want to be in the sun, and oh shoot, I gotta make a video. I just got off the phone with my friend Mike, and we are talking about this concept of containers. And now that's a term you may have heard. Hey, that's a term you may have heard before, this concept of containers and the containers that you create in your life to hold things. And I want to say that examples of containers could be things like your marriage, could be things like the clothes you wear, could be things like the way that you eat, especially if you have meals that you eat the same thing over and over. It could be, I'm just looking down, products you offer if you own your own business. But that's what I mean by containers. So there's specific sort of channels of energy that are going in your life. And a lot of times when those things aren't working well, or they don't suit you, or they don't fit you on a deeper level, we feel like something's wrong with us, right? We feel like something's deeply wrong with us. But what if it's not you and it's them, right? If we make a different assumption, if we make the assumption that everything I do, think, and say, everything I do, think, and feel, everything that I feel and think and know about myself is right, then we get the opportunity to look at, well, then what could be wrong? If it's not me, if my feelings are legitimate, if the way that I show up in the world is valuable, if the stuff that I have to bring to the world, particularly if you're a business owner like me and you do this type of work that's based on you, what if there's nothing wrong with you? That you've got the gift, you've got the skill, you've got the goods, you've got everything. If you are right, then what could be wrong? And you may have heard this idea in the terms of fake it till you make it, right? So people are like, well, your clothes need to reflect how you most want to feel. So what is that saying? That's saying that sometimes the container of your clothing, to use that concept, that the clothing container doesn't match with who you want to be. Which means if we're continually putting ourselves in the clothing container of, I don't feel so great about myself, and I'm not really who I want to be, and I'm just this person who sits at home over here, then that clothing container is not going to feel good, and you're not going to feel good when you're sitting in it. So we have to switch. We have to adjust the container of the clothing in order to better suit you. Because again, we're not going to assume that the feelings you have in that space, the feelings of I'm a loser, I'm never going to get there, this is all I'm going to amount to, we're not going to assume that you're broken. We're going to assume that you're fine. So what else needs to change? Well, maybe what needs to change is how I dress. Maybe it needs to be a better reflection of how I want to feel. Another example would be if you're in this type of business or you run your own business, the products you offer. So if your products aren't selling, if your products aren't going well, if your products aren't allowing you to do the kind of work that you know that you're capable of, which I think all of us have hit up on at some point if you're in business, or even if you work for a 9-to-5, that feeling of like, I've got more and I'm not being challenged, I'm not being given the opportunity to spread my wings, I'm not being utilized to my full potential, right? That it doesn't matter who's your boss in that context, you know? So what if the issue is not that you're not up for the challenge, you're not good enough, nobody gets you, maybe you're just really not as good as you thought you were, so fraud syndrome, maybe, you know, all of that stuff. What if it's not you? It's just the container of the job, of the work environment, of the product that you've created, of the clients that you've attracted, and they're not allowing you to stretch to the fullest extent, or giving you the right environment to really be what you know is true for you. So again, not changing you, but giving yourself all the advantages to be even more you, because this is the fundamental switch. So we're talking about a concept, but the fundamental switch is, I'm not wrong, I'm right. What if there's nothing wrong with me? I just have to do me more. So then we're not using these things in our lives, like the feelings that we have of I feel bad, I feel like I'm never going to do it, all of that, to beat up on ourselves and prove that we're never going to get there. I have written down here marriage as an example of a container, but I don't necessarily want to tiptoe into that zone. But I think relationships could be that too, because maybe you have relationships that just don't feel aligned, like you feel like they're holding you back, or you feel like they're just not gelling with what you want to be, and so it's easy to blame the other person and be like, well, you don't support me, or you hold me back, or you don't understand what I'm really trying to do, and you don't believe in me, right? Like many of us have been there in relationships before, whether that's siblings or parents or friends or partners. And again, if we assume that you're not broken, but the container might be, that doesn't say they're wrong. I want to be really clear on that. I guess we are going to tiptoe into here. That doesn't imply the other person is to blame or at fault. We're talking about the thing you've created to hold all of those feelings, to hold how you view yourself. And so maybe it's the dynamic, right? The dynamic of the relationship that's not allowing you to feel seen, expressed, expansive, all the ways you want to feel. That's not on them. It's on what you've created together, because in that case, the container is a joint container. It's your relationship, right? So thinking about this concept and seeing, okay, well, where am I out of integrity with myself and with the containers in my life? Where are the containers that I've created actually not really supporting who I am? Because I actually feel like they're implying that I'm not what I think I am. And many of us have this, right? Like, I'm thinking of a good example. Like we view ourselves as people who are really like deeply in tune with the world, and we like have such a massive message to share, but we spend most of our time watching TV. Is the container of that habit reflective of what you know is true? Because the more you do a habit like that, the worse you feel, right? Like, oh, well, maybe I'm not really cut out for that. Maybe I'm not actually who I think I am. Maybe I'm not. And I'm not trying to judge TV watching. I'm just thinking of an example that for me, I felt, you know, why am I doing this? I'm just wasting time. Like, so I start to feel bad about myself because of the choice of hobby, because of the choice of activity, not because I've done anything wrong or different. Do you think that people use being broken as a distraction to be persistent with often hard and boring tasks? Do I think that? Yeah. Slightly different topic, but yes. Yes. So let me address that topic actually. So I talk about something called drama tornadoes, and I want you to take this phrase and make it your own and love it. Love it. So here's what happens. I'm talking to you, and I'd like you to notice my fingers are here. Here's my fingers. But I'm talking to you about a concept called drama tornadoes, right? Drama tornadoes, that's what I want to talk about, because we're talking about distractions from the true thing. So I'm sure that part of you is watching your fingers, but why are you watching my fingers? Because I'm the one talking. My fingers are just out here. They're not talking. They're not imparting any knowledge to you. They're not telling you anything. So why are you distracted by my fingers? Right? That's a drama tornado. So an obvious and easy example of one. But what we mean is something that stirs up attention and we're like, oh, look over there. Ooh, what's happening over there? And here's the key thing about drama tornadoes is that they feel fixable. So it's a problem in your life that feels like you should be able to fix it. And because it feels fixable / actionable / tangible, that means we shift all of our energy to like, oh, let me fix this. I will fix this, and once I fix this, then I'll deal with whatever else. But it's just a drama tornado. And as soon as you fix it over here, it's going to move to here, to here, to here, to here, because all it's doing is distracting your energy from the real show, right? Which is behind the curtain. And the real show for most of us is this big, big question of, well, if I'm not broken, then what? Then what? And that's a scary question. Well, if I'm not broken, then what the hell am I doing? What's my problem? What am I afraid of? Am I really a worthless person? Because if I was whole, then why aren't I acting whole? Do I not believe that I'm enough? Do I not believe that I'm whole? Do I not believe that I'm lovable? Do I believe that something's fundamentally wrong with me? Like, this is where we use the drama tornadoes to distract from big existential questions, right? Because at the end of the day, it all boils down to, do I matter? Do I matter? Or does none of this matter? And that's a scary place to start thinking, because there's two choices. Yes, I matter. No, I don't. And we know that the great abyss of no, I don't is there. We can feel it. We feel that darkness. We feel that possibility. And so we'd rather avoid the whole question than do the work to find a way to know that you matter to yourself, right? This is the fundamental premise of the work that I do, is getting us to that point of the void and choosing I matter, because it's the choice. That's the choice that makes the difference. That's it. It's just the choice. I matter, and now let me find ways to validate that every single day in my own actions, my own decisions, my own way of thinking. But we've got a lot of drama tornadoes to go through to get there, right? That's what I'm doing in the 30-day Breaking Belief Challenge, is like, I'm going to break all these drama tornadoes because they're all the same thing. It's I'm not good enough showing up in money, showing up in love, showing up with your parents, showing up in your clients, it's showing up everywhere. But they're just drama tornadoes. So we use this I'm broken as a way to stop us from having to deal with much harder questions that are potentially very deeply hurtful, because we've got to face those core wounds at our heart that we are so afraid are true that we'll do anything to avoid having to feel them and look at them, because God forbid they are true, But just like a coin has two sides, the flip side to your core wound is your deepest and most valuable and radiant calling in the world. They're inextricably linked. You cannot take one away from the other, right? It's like a spectrum. They're the same thing, and when you put the spectrum together in a circle, they are right next to each other. So your deepest fear and your biggest gift in the world are the same. It's just two ways of feeling it in a way that hurts and feeling it in a way that feels good, internalizing it, expressing it, right? But they're the same thing. So when we move beyond those drama tornadoes, and I'm looking at the comment here, these distractions, and we actually focus on that core wound, what happens is we open the doorway to our most meaningful life, because the core wound and the meaning and your gift are attached. So as soon as you're like, I'm willing to see the core wound, and I'm willing to cope with that, guess what happens? The core wound goes, oh, well, here you go. Here you go. Now you can have your gift. And it doesn't mean that you don't feel the pain. It means that the pain gives you meaning. And when you have that meaning, you answer that existential fear of, do I matter? Because now you get it, and you get how you matter. Because the core wound and how you matter, they're connected, right? Because your gift, your purpose, your calling, the thing that you uniquely hold in the world, that is how you matter. And that's how we find our way, because I have a unique system. That's why I'm choosing my language here carefully. I have a system where we figure out what is it that your soul actually needs on a daily basis to feel meaningful. Because there are specific actions that'll be different for you than they are for me. To feel that type of I matter every day. And so we can use that deep focus once we've gotten to core wound and your gift, core wound and your purpose, core wound and your calling, to be able to enhance and build that feeling on a daily basis of I matter, and I matter more, and I matter more, and I matter more, and this life matters. So yeah, I think we absolutely use being broken as a distraction. And so drama tornadoes in this case, we can sub out for shitty containers, bad containers. I shouldn't swear on Facebook because I can't put it on YouTube then. Bad containers. So we'll use things like, well, my clothes are really crappy, and so now I've got to, redo my whole wardrobe. You could do that with this concept of containers. You could use a container like this and realizing, oh, well, you're right, that container totally doesn't reflect who I am, so now that's my new drama tornado, and I've got to fix all the containers in my life before I can be me. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying, because that's just creating more drama tornadoes. What I'm saying is we get to this core belief of, it's not me. I'm fine. You're not failing. You're not failing. You're not failing. You're not broken. You're not inherently flawed. You're just not. And I know you can hear me say that, and your mind is like, oh yeah, well, if that was true, then what about this? And if that was true, then where's my money? And if that was true, then where's the proof? And if that was true, then why aren't I like so-and-so? You know, I get it. I get it. But what that is showing to me is that the support we've built around ourselves, the containers, are not reflecting the belief that I am whole, I am enough, I am not broken. It means that the containers we've built, our clothes, our relationships, our business, our jobs, the way we show up in our relationships, all of that stuff, it's saying that those aren't reflecting, that those could be enhanced, that those could be adapted, that those could be improved in order to better reflect a belief that you are okay, that you're whole, that you're complete, that you got something to say, you got something to share, you've got gifts to give. Even if that gift is raising children, I'm not putting this in a context of you have to go climb Mount Everest and make $1 million, right? Because it's unique to you. But you're okay. You're okay. And so we're not trying to blame anybody else in this. It's not saying, oh, it's your fault. It's saying, actually, maybe the structures I've built in my life are just reiterating feeling bad about myself. And I could tweak the structures, not the people in them. I'm not blaming the structures. I'm not blaming the people in them. I'm just saying, they could actually better reflect that I like myself instead of making me continually question whether I'm worth it, whether I'm broken, whether I'm good enough. You know, this is why, like, I was having a really tough time. As a great example, I was having a really tough time getting up in the mornings. But every time I slept in, until my husband left for work, I would feel bad. I would feel like, well, this is just proof that you're never going to make it. And this is proof that you don't value yourself. And look, you're skipping your daily practice. And this is just proof that, you know, whatever comes up. And I finally got to the point where I thought, I'm not failing. I'm not broken. I'm not incapable. I am not uncommitted. I'm not any of that stuff. I've chosen a really bad habit. And so I had to switch the habit, and I had to have the conversation with my husband of, I've got to go to bed earlier because I need to wake up earlier. Why do I need to? Because it makes me feel better. Period. I don't need to. There's nothing on my schedule, but I'm on my schedule. And the mental pain of sleeping in, of the poor container, was just causing me to spiral down in negative thought. So I changed the container of the habit, my morning practice, and I got up earlier. And now I feel like what I do in the morning between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. supports who I want to be and who I am at my core. It supports me being whole and full instead of sleeping in, which supported me being broken and flawed. Do you see what I mean? So I wasn't blaming my husband for keeping me up. I'm not blaming myself for being a terrible person that I'm never going to figure it out. But at some point I've got to say, am I going to keep going with the drama? The drama of this makes me feel bad about myself. This proves that I'm bad. Or am I going to say, let's fix that container of the habit because it's not supporting me. Same thing with clothes. Sometimes you've got to go through those clothes that make you feel schlubby and bad about yourself and get rid of them. Not because they're not great clothes, but because they make you feel schlubby and bad about yourself. And hopefully you're in a, fortunate position where you have more than one outfit. Not everybody does. So it's these types of things. Or like I was looking at my lunch. This was another thing that came up. And you can use integrity for this as well. But I like the ideas of containers because we can see how we can build something up around us and go, oh shoot, now I'm stuck between these walls and these walls aren't making me feel very good. Deconstruct it, build it up, and guess what? Now we've got something that's growing us. It's like putting a plant in a pot that's too small. It doesn't grow. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, let me change the pot, and now we're growing. Now we're growing. So with lunches, I was being really casual with my lunches and sort of eating little tidbits here and there that weren't adding up to me feeling like I was choosing the best things for myself. It was still good food, but I wasn't choosing the best food that made me think to myself, wow, I really care about myself. So now I'm being more deliberate. I'm being more intentional. I'm making food that when I look at it says to me, you care about yourself. And that's what it is, right? That it doesn't have to be more than that. It wasn't the food's fault, right? I just gotten lazy and I was using my habit of choosing poor lunches to prove that I wasn't ever going to get there, that I was never going to be good enough, right? And so I want you to consider these containers, habits, things that you created in your life and how well they support you, or if they're just reiterating a belief like, I'm not good enough, I'm broken, I'm failing. And if they are, really think about it. Do you want to continue with that container? Because the walls are there, right? The walls are there. The structure is there, and the structure is either taking you down or it's taking you up. That's all there is to it. Any questions or thoughts? It says I have 2 comments, but I cannot read. I only see 1 for some reason. I see that somebody left a comment, but I can't see it. I can see Sean's, but that's it. So if you posted a comment and I can't see it, I will see it after I stop the live. For some reason, sometimes I can't see them when it's live, and I'll answer it afterwards. But if you have any other comments, I hope this is really hitting home for you. I love when I talk to people who inspire me because, you know, I talk about drama tornadoes and I talk about integrity and I think about it in my own life, right, all the time. Oh, thanks. But when I get to talk to somebody who thinks about it in a different way and they give me new vocabulary, I'm like, containers, containers, containers. And I've heard this word before. I've heard it for a year now, but I didn't really use it. And then today I really got it. Because I'm like, oh, it's like my wardrobe. It's like my lunch. It's like my morning practice. It's the things that I choose to either build me up or tear me down. And if the fundamental belief of all the containers in my life is a flawed premise, like I'm not enough, then guess what? Everything in my life is going to reflect that right back to me. Now we're in the Manifestation Abraham Hicks world, right? And this is where we're talking about the nitty-gritty of what does that actually look like? It looks like that the choices we made with things like the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the habits we have, the hobbies we have at night, what we do after work, the conversations we have at work, that's where we're constantly creating the next thing, right? And so if we're complaining or doing something that depletes our energy, or doing something that just communicates that I don't really care and this is just a rush job, like drive-through lunch, you know, like I don't really care about myself, I'm not investing in my health, then we're just sending ourselves that continual message that reaffirms the belief that we're not okay at the core. So when you choose to change that belief, and you choose to say, no, that's a crappy way of thinking, I want to believe differently, then we have to look at all the things in our life and how they're reflecting maybe the opposite so that we can tweak them. And we tweak them to better feel. We tweak them to better feel how we want to believe and how we want to feel about ourselves. So that is what we're talking about. And as an aside, because we're here and because I didn't know we were going down this track, I'm doing another 30-day challenge to break bad beliefs. If you want to know more about it, I haven't shared anything about it. We're still in the last one now, but I'm going to start the next one May 12th because this is the kind of stuff we do, right? We get beyond these drama tornadoes, we go behind the curtain, realize the fundamental fear that's here, and then look at the other side of the fundamental fear and go, holy moly, there's my biggest gift. There's my biggest joy in the world. There's my sense of meaning, but I'm not ready to live it, right? Because there's all these drama tornadoes. And so that's where we come into a supportive space that's really focused for 30 days to help you build the capacity to live more in that space of how you want to be, live more in the space of your purpose and calling than swinging out of it, swinging out of it, swinging out of it. Because most of us have containers in our lives that take us down because they reflect the negative belief. So when we choose a different belief instead, it sounds like an easy thing, right? We'll just choose the belief. We'll break the belief. But breaking the belief isn't about the change in thought. It's about the change in embodiment. It's about the change in how we live it. And when all the containers in your life reflect the previous belief, that's going to take a bit. It's just going to take a bit, right? And we need support because we don't realize that the containers in our lives are reiterating the old messaging. So all we know is that we wake up and we feel really bad about ourselves and we're like, well, I guess this just proves that I'm never going to do it. No, it just proves that you're living in an outdated container. And we need to become more aware. We need to open our awareness and witness what's really happening so that we have the strength and capacity within ourselves to hold how we want to feel longer, to hold our light side, our happy side of the mattering side of the core wound longer and longer and longer. It's building capacity. It takes time. It just takes time. Another question, I find it hard to focus on tasks that involve progress as there's so much admin and mundane stuff that fills my time. Then I feel like things aren't moving forward. Yeah, welcome to the club, buddy. You know me. I texted you or messaged you months ago to be like, look, I'm launching this thing, and it's still not launched, because I know exactly what you mean. But here's what I've been doing. I'm going to take a sip of water. Here's what I've been doing about this idea of progress or not progress. And I had this very conversation with a client in the current 30-day challenge today, which is, can we write down, can we identify every day what we are doing? Because the challenge is we've got in our heads a mental, we've got a mental hierarchy. These tasks matter, these tasks don't matter. And so when we're only doing these tasks that don't matter in our own chosen hierarchy, we write them off as not important. So what did I do today? Nothing. So how am I ever going to get to where I'm going to go? Well, I'm not. Right? So we've got ourselves in a little bind because we've excluded actions just based on our own prejudice against them. But, and this is a big but because it takes some strictness of mind. If we can choose to identify and to, I dare say, even celebrate, and I learned a lot about celebration from Shannon Townsend, one of my friends who's the celebration queen, but celebrate these little tasks. So write them down. Write them down, even if it wasn't on your list. Write it down, strike a thing through it, and then at the end of the day, catalog everything I did. Because if you saw my video on compounding action, another beautiful phrase shared with me by my friend Mike, every action counts. We can't take an action that's down here and have it not get us here, right? Because it's like if this was a bank account, you want $1 million, every dollar is getting you there. So every admin task is still taking us in that direction. It just feels like a waste of time because it's down here, but that's prejudice. That's our own judgment placed upon it, but it's still getting us there. So when we can really use strictness of mind to focus on that and to say, I did this today. And it doesn't have to be external. Sometimes it's internal work. I did this today. This is important because this is my goal, and these are things that are on the way to that goal. I'm not doing something over here, right? You didn't just like drop the whole thing and say, well, I'm just going to go over here. You're still doing the things, even if they're mundane, even if they're admin, to get to that dream, to get to that thing that you know is true that you want to create. At which point, we're in a compounding interest situation, right? Now, there's practical things you can do as well. Outsourcing is a great part of it. Some mundane admin tasks just need to be taken off your plate so you can focus on your area of expertise. But in the short term, we've got to switch the mindset in order to build to the place where we can release them without that negativity, right? And maybe it's just not possible financially or where we are right now. So how do we make it feel better? How do we make it work where we are? And that's that strictness of mind, saying this still counts. Every step counts. And you know, if you were a salesman and you went door to door, every door counts. Not just the doors that said yes. That's mundane. I mean, talk about mundane and repetitive, and I wouldn't want to do it. No offense if that's somebody's life, but that would be really like, I would struggle with that. But it's the same thing that we do, right? Like yesterday, I spent 4 hours downloading videos, uploading videos, backing up videos, and sharing videos. And my husband came home, he said, what'd you do? And I was like, gosh, I feel like I worked all day, but I can't think of anything I did. And that's why this is on my mind so well, because I realized I got to write that down. I have to write down and acknowledge I downloaded videos, I uploaded videos, not for the sake of it, but because those videos are what are going to inspire people. Those videos are what captured people sharing deep things to me that I can reflect back to them and they can hold on to grow in the future. Those videos have lasting impact of the work way beyond the fact that, oh, I just uploaded a video, you know? Or making worksheets or sending bills or doing payment things. Like all of that is building that container the supportive container that's getting you to your goal. So acknowledge it, celebrate it. We don't write it off because of prejudice. You know, all the work is created equal in the concept of compounding interest because every dollar is created equal. Hopefully that answers your question and gives you some different ways of thinking about it. There's one more thing I wanted to say in that line. What was it? I can't remember. Wait. It's so close. Oh, about inner work. So sometimes we have to count inner work too. So 2 weeks ago, I had a pretty massive experience personally in group therapy. And I'm in group therapy for rape trauma, as I've shared quite openly. And so I had a really busy week, and I was so energized. I was in like this kind of mode where I was like, you're get it done. I'm going to launch all this stuff. It's going to be amazing. I'm doing this. And then this thing happened. And it was emotional, and it was beautiful, and it was a long time coming. But it stopped me in my tracks in the sense that I was exhausted. I was just emotionally exhausted. I was physically exhausted, and I was tired. I just needed to rest, right? And it was all from like a conversation, and I'm like, come on, no, this is not the time, you know? And why am I so tired when I was feeling so great, and I've got so much to do, and why am I so tired, and this and this and this? But what I had to do was put inner work on that list, on that to-do list. Rest and nurture myself. Check. Allow my body to recuperate from something that may have felt like a big internal shift. Check. Whether you believe this stuff or not, honestly, this is why you start believing it, because you start to notice that your energy goes up and down, and your ability to function goes up and down in the ways that you want to function, because we prejudice towards like, this is the best work ever, so this doesn't count. So, I started to think a lot about what's happening down here, and it's still work. Right? It's still getting me towards the main goal as long as I'm clear with the intention and the direction of where I'm going. Because then every step on the path is getting me there. Like every dollar counts in the bank account, right? Every step is getting me there. So the time when I had to crash and sleep and rest, it's still getting me to my goal of writing my book, of publishing my course, of reaching new people, of connecting with people who really need the message. Whatever the goal is, that rest time is still getting me there because it's doing something for me. It's shifting something for me. So whether it's a mundane task or an intangible task, for me, what's helped a lot is starting to identify them and then celebrate them, to count them as important, because every step counts. Every step counts. It's easy to throw away a penny, but put that penny in the bank account, and sooner or later it's going to be 5 pennies. And that's what we mean, like every step counts, even though we might dismiss it. Dismiss it, yeah. I hope that gives you a new food for thought, new something to chew on when it comes to mundane tasks. But at the end of the day, once we can shift our distaste for it, or frustration with it, or why is this happening to me? I'm never going to get ahead because I'm always stuck dealing with this stupid stuff. Once we face that frustration head on and say, well, how am I going to navigate that then? Because this is my life. This is my reality. So how am I going to navigate this reality in a way that works for me and keeps me in the container of growth instead of taking me in the container of I'm never going to get there? Once we find an emotional way to come to terms with that. So for me, the emotional way right now is making less, celebrating, recognizing that it's all in the path, and telling myself in the moment, this is still getting me to my goal. This is a step in the direction. This is a step on the path. This is not detracting. This is a step on the path, a step on the path, a step on the path. Then maybe we get to a place where we can delegate, we can let it go. We can pass it with love to someone else, because it's not menial work, right? It's important work that builds you. And now we've brought somebody in to help build you even more, instead of just passing off menial work, which feels disrespectful to the person, right? Like, we don't want that kind of person in our lives who's just doing menial things on the side. We want people who build us, in particular if you're in business, who build and support your business. So the first step is to find a new way of thinking, a new way of coming to terms with that prejudice we have. Oh, good. I'm glad. I have to go now. My husband is home and we are going to check out the new Tesla. Not because we're buying one, but because they're in town and they send us an email to say, hey, we're in town. Why don't you come check out our cars? Because they're not allowed to be sold in this area yet because New York has really weird legislation. So they're just doing like a show at this Museum of Science and Technology, and we thought, well, that sounds like fun. That sounds like fun. What a cool thing to experience. So we're gonna go check them out. Yeah, thank you guys for joining. If you have any questions, please pop them in. I'm gonna share more about the 30-Day Breaking Belief Challenge, which is really similar to the work that we're doing here and the work that I'm sharing with you. We do that in the group to build capacity. I didn't start this video to share that, but I want to share it since we're talking about this deep work, and that will start March 12th. So if you're interested, PM me. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. This is the good stuff, right? But yeah, take away from this, drama tornadoes, don't be distracted by the beautiful drama tornadoes. They feel fixable, but they're just covering up fear, right? They're covering up something we don't want to feel. So trust yourself to pull out from the drama tornado and go, what's really going on here? What's really going on? And your drama tornado might be lack. Your drama tornado might be I'm not enough. Your drama tornado might be nobody loves me. Your drama tornado might be I'm not safe. And it shows up in all those forms, right? It feels very real, but really it's just the container of money, the container of relationship, the container of business reflecting back to you a belief you already had. So then we've got to tweak both the belief and the container to better reflect how we want to believe and feel and see ourselves instead. And the belief part is what we do in the 30-day challenge. The container part is what we're talking about here. That's a ongoing question, an ongoing beautiful practice. All right. Mwah. Talk to you soon.